So welcome to podcast episode 6. Become for this podcast, please subscribe. I've got a great guest today, Joe Barnes, author, speaker, coach. He's written several books. One is called Escape the System. The second book's called Do the Work You Love. Joe also runs meetup groups in London called Success Club. And he's also got a YouTube channel called Screw the System. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Johnny.
Awesome, man. So what's your story to begin with? You can take as long as you want or go back as far as you want, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so I guess my story, as in terms of being relevant to the work I do now, probably starts around about university, when I got fed up with study and was thinking to myself, you know, how long is this going to continue? I got to university, obviously we do, I don't know what, 15 years of school in this country, and was being told you've got to get good grades to get into university. Now I got to university, I was being told you've got to get a good degree to get a good job. And then from there I could see that it would be, oh, well, you haven't made it yet. Now that you've got a job, you've got to work hard to get promotion and then promotion and promotion. So basically I got sick of chasing the whole time. And I could see that if I kept following a conventional path, what I refer to in my books as the systems path, it was just going to be a never-ending chase until I retired. And by the time I'd retired, I was going to be too burnt out to really enjoy life. So my story really starts there in terms of the relevance of my books. I decided I finished university, but I decided I wasn't going to do any conventional jobs. So from there, I went on to be a tennis coach, from a tennis coach to a hypnotherapist. While I was doing both of those two things, I wrote my first book, and then I wrote my second book, and I'm doing all the other stuff you mentioned at the start.
Well, that's really interesting. I did a lot of research. I found you to be really interested in what you do, and I didn't want to be the one to tell your story. I wanted to get you to do it on this show. That's why I didn't say too much. So I'm really fascinated. So what made you decide that you didn't want to follow the conventional way of the system, which most people do? Because that takes a lot of guts to not follow what most people are doing. And I kind of read some of your story. If I remember correctly, you were saying that I think your parents and most people weren't supporting your ideas to begin with you going on.
Nobody really was. I mean, it's not, I don't want to make it seem like people were against me. It's just not supporting me. You know, I was on my own. I had to figure it out myself, basically. But what was your question before that?
Yeah, my question before that was, what made you want to decide that you wanted to go your own way and start being a writer and do books and teach? And
so I think part of it was the chasing I mentioned earlier. I actually wanted to live my life. I didn't want to wait till I was 60 or 70 to be able to live my life. I wanted to live my life now, or back then being now. And the other part was I looked at conventional jobs and just thought they looked so boring. I mean, I had a good education. I'm from a, financially well-off family. I went to a private school, and both my parents were lawyers, and I guess I was raised to be a copy of my parents. And my parents brought me up good. I have no problems with my parents at all, but they raised me to be a copy of them. Now, that's not something I wanted to do. And even, some people might consider a job like a lawyer, an accountant, or working in a high up in a corporate business, or working in a bank as a good job. To me, that just looked so boring. And I remember my mentality at the time. I just thought I'd rather be dead. I thought there's no point me living my life being an accountant or doing some so-called respectable job and getting paid lots of money, getting paid relatively well. I just thought, there's just no point. I need to find something that really actually excites me. And that's why I chose the path I chose.
So you gave it a shot for a while. You did what most people do. You did try it, and on paper.
No, not really. I tried it in so much as I finished my university degree when I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't give it a shot at all. I worked in a sports retail store for 6 months, but that was to earn money so I could go traveling. Got back, I worked in a bar for a little bit, but while I just figured things out, and then I did my tennis coaching. I think how long? I think a year and a half after, no, not even that, a year and a few months after leaving university, I'd started working as a tennis coach.
Right. So was the tennis coach a passion like the writing was for you? because there's a lot of things that you've done, and I'm not quite sure what you're still doing now. If you're still doing the tennis coaching, the teaching, and the books and everything else.
Yeah, tennis coaching was, I don't know if I wouldn't put it to the degree of being a passion. I'd say it's something I enjoy doing. I like it. It's a way of making money, which is fun, which is flexible. You can, you don't have to work a 9 to 5. And it's actually pretty rewarding when you start doing it and you start teaching kids who are doing well and playing tournaments. So that was not the whole, I had a strategy really. It was tennis coaching, hypnotherapy, like my platform. And with that platform of at least, enough money to live on and work, which I find enjoyable. So I'm not drained every day. With that platform, I can then shoot to becoming a best-selling author. That was always the plan, and it still is the plan, because as you mentioned, although I'm not doing as much, I still do a little bit of tennis coaching, and I do still see hypnotherapy clients because I can't make a full-time living off book royalties at the moment, and it's getting better. I also do online coaching, which helps as well. People contact me via my book, and then I coach them. So I'm making more money from that now, but it's not enough. So that's why I still keep going with the hypnotherapy and the tennis.
And that's really great. I saw some of the pictures. It really inspired me, Joe, of you doing it was a great picture of a book signing, and it just looked genuine, looked great. Some people coming up buying books on your website, and that picture kind of encapsulated what it means to become fearless or break out of social conditioning or any kind of conditioning that you don't want to be in. And the picture kind of said a lot of words. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate how much content you put out consistently. I know how difficult and challenging that can be, even when you enjoy something, you're passionate. And that's kind of why I got you on the show, despite obviously us knowing each other from last year we met. So moving on to the next question. I think I read on your blog again that you was inspired by the film The Matrix. Is that correct? Did that film trigger that I need to get out of the Matrix in the real Matrix?
Yeah, it was weird watching that, because that was 1999 that was released. And I just came out the cinema thinking nothing is real. I was looking around at houses, the glass. I thought I could just smash a window or could smash a glass and it doesn't matter because it's not real. It was just so weird to think that way. I didn't stay thinking that way, but it kind of altered my mindset, because I kind of I didn't understand it fully at the time. I only subsequently go on to fully understand it. I just had this feeling that the world outside us is not necessarily real. And what I mean by that, because I don't believe we're literally trapped in the Matrix, is that everything we see around us is a reaction to what's inside us. Our thought, or some great inventor or some genius architect has created all of this. It's come out of his mind, basically. So in a sense, obviously it is real, you can touch it, but in a sense, what's even more real is what's behind it, the thought behind it, the consciousness behind it. And that, I think that blew my mind, was what I took from The Matrix, along with a few other things as well, which I just loved about the film. And it did then go on to inspire that film, and Fight Club went on to inspire my first book. Those two were the kind of catalysts for it.
You explain that really well, because I get what you mean. Some people take it to the extreme where they say nothing's real, and it can be a bit unhealthy. But I totally get what you said. I understand it. I find it hard to articulate it, but you explained it. I think people will get it. I think a lot of our generation, I'm probably a similar age to you, Joe, that film really affected us, even though we didn't fully understand it at the time. Part of us understood it, and then later on you watch it and you go, oh, of course I understand subtextual meaning of the film, the society, the conditioning, the way that the way there's like a kind of an intelligent system that's built and everyone is kind of just following without realizing. There's so many like deep messages in that film. So the love of writing, did writing start when you was younger at school? Usually these things do. Do you think you was born to be a writer, or was that something that came a little bit later on?
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I wouldn't actually say, it sounds, this may sound weird, but I don't actually think I loved, or still even do love, writing, to be honest. It's very difficult, very hard. my vision actually was originally of me speaking in front of an audience and being able to create some kind of change. It was a very vague like vision I had, and I thought I've got to follow this. But back in the time, 2002, 2003, this is before the internet was really, before YouTube was blowing up, before blogs were relevant. It was like, what's my path to getting there? I thought, well, I've got to write a book. That's what I thought. That's my only path to doing it. So that was, in a way, the writing is more of a vehicle to try to get the message across. Now, having spent so many hours writing, I kind of now do enjoy it. And I feel my writing is my best way to communicate my message, even better than the speaking, ironically, which is what I thought I was setting out to do. But yeah, no, I always did pretty well at English at school, and always quite enjoyed writing, keep a journal. So it's I enjoy it, but to say I love it, I don't know, that maybe that's a stretch, but I've probably grown to love it. I think that's probably more accurate.
I appreciate the honesty. That was really good. So do you think, because I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, do you think writing's the same as doing it? Obviously it's not the same, but if you say on a video and you help someone and give some advice, do you think it's the same as if you write it out? If you wrote an article on how to break out of negative thinking and conditioning, or do you understand what I mean? I sometimes think
could you repeat it, Johnny? Because you just broke up a bit. I only got half the question. I lost you for a second.
Oh, okay, that's all right. I was saying, do you think writing is the same as doing a video? If you said the same thing through a video, or you wrote the words down, it's a different medium. But do you think it's different? People receive it different. If they read an article on how to break out of negative thinking, or they watch a video of you talking them through, that makes sense.
No, it's crazy, but it's not the same thing. You could literally do it word for word, and it's really not the same.
Yeah.
I get some people prefer my videos. I don't know. Personally, maybe I think my writing's probably better than my videos. Just that's my guess. But some people, a lot of people connect more with the videos. They don't want to sit down and read. I tried to keep my blog posts to about 1,500 words. We're only talking about 5 or 6 minute read. But yeah, it's hard to tell, but it's funny. I've definitely noticed that. Two completely different things, two completely different ways of reaching people.
Yeah, I've noticed that reaction from putting out content. If I've wrote something, it doesn't get the same reaction as if I speak it. I suppose there's emotions more. But do you think that's the change of the technological change, and we've evolved, and books have been around, I don't know how so many years, and people would always go to books for knowledge, but now you don't need to necessarily go to books for knowledge. You can watch a podcast show like this, or a video. So I don't know. It's what's your thoughts on that?
I think the videos are more entertaining, but I think reading will always be around, because, well, personally, I find I learn more from reading. It's like audiobooks are getting more and more popular now, and more people consume books via listening to them. But I quite like audiobooks, but I take in so much more when I actually sit down and read. And I think it's probably the same, even with watching videos. I'll take in more from reading. And for that reason, I think they'll always be around. I find the best sources of knowledge, without comparison, are proper books. You buy a proper book, £6-7, whatever, get it on your Kindle or get the paperback. That's the best way to learn, in my opinion.
I must be the only one who's different, Joe, because I'd have to disagree with that. For me, for everyone else will disagree with me. I'll always learn through speaking with people and doing practical things. That's just how my brain takes information in, but it doesn't mean I can't change that. And I have read some books, but I get a bit of criticism for that, because I don't attack people, but I say reading books is a waste of time if you're reading the books to build confidence and take action. But of course, books have their place, and they do work for a lot of people. So I'm not saying to people, don't buy your books. It's good to laugh. So many questions, so many interesting things you said. So I mean, to state the obvious, what fears have you faced so far? You probably faced loads, but is there about 1 to 3 that you remember that were difficult, that you had to really get uncomfortable in order to do what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Some I can talk about now, some I want to actually hold on to because I'm going to write a book one day about them and I want to just hold on to them. But I can give you some good stuff. And a crazy one comes up now, actually, and it's not going to be what you expect at all, but it's just popped into my head when you asked that question.
Sure.
Fear of going to sleep. And that sounds odd, but it was because I had insomnia at university. Or no, not fear of going to sleep, fear of bedtime, basically, of not being able to sleep yet again. And it would just play in my mind and kind of dominate my life and dominate my thinking as well. And I really had to learn how to detach from that fear, how to relax. You know, the bed became a very uncomfortable place for me because it was just reminding me of night after night of frustrations. So I just really had to teach myself to, when I was, you know, waking up at 3 a.m. or whatever it was, to just to let the anger, let the frustration drain out of me. And in the day, when I was fearing what's the sleep going to be like tonight, I'd have to remind myself to let go. Just put this out of your mind completely. Don't focus on this. Don't dwell on that fear, because the fear will create the reality. The fear will create the outcome, basically. So I try and find a more conventional fear for you as well. Let me think. Another fear, something your channel discusses a lot, was a fear of approaching girls, approaching women. I had a real barren spell in my early 20s, late teens and early 20s. It was just a disaster, just a write-off. And I would, you know, see a girl I liked, and the problem was, because I go so long without a date, I build it up in my mind as such a big issue, like put so much pressure on myself to make a good impression on the woman I liked. And there was a fear of the approach, fear of speaking to them. And there was nothing the only way I really overcame that was to just do it, to face my fear, to put myself in that situation and force myself to speak to girls I liked, even if I made a total idiot out of myself. It didn't matter, because I had to get through the fear. Once I can get through the fear, I can then relax. And when I relax, then I can be a bit more myself, and there's more chance somebody might like me if I'm that, rather than somebody who's, you know, uptight.
That was brilliant. Great answer. The sleep one is so powerful. I watched your video a few days ago, and you gave the same advice. And it's funny you said it. I've just gone through that the last 2 days. I took some of your advice in your video. It's a fear that I'm going to get a late night and wake up in the morning. I'm not going to feel good. I won't be able to do the interviews as good as I know I can and function. But I've had to apply what you said and just not let it blackmail me and not obsess, and just go, if I don't get to sleep till 3 or 4, that's fine. I'll do some work. I'll make up for it again. But do you know what, Joe? I think so many people are going through that at the moment, men and women, especially with the lockdown and what's going on outside with the COVID. But that's really fascinating. I think so many people probably feeling the same, but maybe they might be too embarrassed to talk about it, or they might not think other people are going through it. So really relate to that. Yeah, especially when you said about the bed not being like a comfortable place. You sort of have this relation. I've been having it lately. It's like my bed, I have my laptop, I have my notes, and sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to. I feel like I'm not going to get a sleep. And you just want to get that feeling of being relaxed and getting to sleep. But you said in your video, didn't you, which I found very true, I think you've got to kind of relax before you go to sleep. Some of us are trying to go to sleep and we're not fully relaxed. We're stressed out or angry or anxious, or even excitement can keep me up if I've got good ideas. I'm too stimulated.
Yeah, you've got to be relaxed. And it's kind of, there's always a balance, a sort of fine line, because if you're saying, oh, I'm not sleeping well, so I have to be in bed by 11 p.m. exactly, I've got to follow all of these rules, you're actually putting pressure on yourself. You're actually winding yourself up. So in some ways, it's better not to have any rules. Totally relax in the evening, watching TV, reading a book, whatever, just or meditating, whatever helps you switch off. But don't do it thinking this is going to help me sleep, because again, that's going to backfire. You've just got to relax, just enjoy yourself. But as you say, don't get too stimulated. And then when you're feeling sleepy, when that sleepiness hits you, then, you know, off to bed.
Yeah, I think that's a different fear to the fear of speaking to people, social anxiety, speaking to girls. It's a different type of fear. But yeah, you're totally right with regard to those fears. You just got to face it. There's not much else you can do if you're nervous to speak to people. So tell me about hypnotherapy, Joe. I'll be honest, I don't know much about it. I was always a bit skeptical of hypnotherapy. I guess a lot of people are until they understand it. So yeah, I'm all ears. How does it work? Do you believe in it? Have you helped a lot of people? I'd love to know, and I'm sure a lot of people listening would love to know. Maybe some people know it already, or some people are not sure about what is hypnotherapy. How does it work?
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing it since 2005 and seen, a lot of clients seen that since then, have a lot of positive results. And then sometimes clients, it doesn't work. It doesn't work as well for other clients. I wouldn't want to sit here and pretend that everybody I've seen has got their desired outcome. It doesn't always work that way. The actual hypnosis is pretty simple. You've just got to get somebody in a relaxed enough state so that their brain waves slow down, basically. So we are in, I've got to get this right. I think usually in a beta, no, it's alpha brainwave state, and you reduce to beta and then theta. Basically, I may not have got that order right because I'm just doing this off the top of my head. But once you slow the brain waves down, your critical voice, your analytical voice, so this is your day-to-day thinking, your conscious mind begins to shut down. And your subconscious mind becomes more, well, it's easier to give a suggestion to the subconscious mind. Now, a suggestion was obviously going to be something positive or getting them to look at a problem in a different way. And because they haven't got that critical part of their mind saying, well, this is all bullshit or this is not going to work, there's more chance that they are going to accept that suggestion, or the suggestion is going to start to grow in their mind. And it's not just about suggestions. Well, it is all of it is using the power of suggestion, but sometimes it's not just necessarily you will stop smoking. It's getting them to look at life in a different way, or reframe their problem in a way that helps them change a habit or remove some anxiety. So it's all about getting them in that deeper state, first of all, and then you've got to use your skill with words, really, with your suggestions to lead them to a place where they can be free of whatever it is that's bothering them.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Very different to the stereotype of someone coming up and waving their hand and hypnotizing you, like what Darren Brown was doing. Not saying that it isn't working, but no, I appreciate your honesty with saying it works for some, it doesn't work for other people.
But so, yeah, just on that quickly, you can one way of getting somebody into trance is to relax them. Another way is to shock them. So when you see Darren Brown do his quick inductions, that can work, because when you shock somebody, again, their critical part of their mind it goes completely. So they're more open to suggestions. So you can do very quick inductions, or you can take a little longer and get people slowing down, and then they eventually start to go into trance. So what Darren Brown does and the stage hypnotists do does also work as well as a way to induce trance.
That's really interesting. So with regards to escaping the system, your first book that you wrote, what do you think the best way for people to escape the system is? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be challenging, but what would be the first step if someone felt like they were trapped in a job they didn't enjoy, or a life, or a certain addiction? I've seen that on your website, you cover that. How could they take the first practical step to escape from the system and start living a better life?
I always say, and I say it in the book, that escaping the system begins in your mind first. You have to detach completely from what I feel is all the bullshit we get told to believe. And once you can do that, you can start planning what your physical life is going to be like outside of the system. And that's a journey, you know, that could take 5 years. It might take 10 years to achieve that. But detaching from the system in terms of freeing your mind from the system's way of thinking, you can do that instantly. So that's the first step, really. And when I say not believing all the bullshit, what I mean is question all the assumptions people take for granted. So for example, we're going through this whole COVID experience at the moment. And now I'm not suggesting that it's fake or that it's not dangerous and that there aren't consequences, but don't believe everything the media is telling you. Ask questions. I mean, the WHO, the World Health Organization, released a statistic saying the death rate from COVID is only 0.6%. Now that's pretty, the World Health, it might even be lower than that, what I'm trying to say, reading between the lines. And okay, that's not great, but that's not, you know, as deadly as the media is making out. So my point is always question the commonly held assumptions. That's just one I've covered because it's a general topic at the moment. Another one could be that we all, unless we got some special talent or gift, then we're pretty much consigned to making a living working a 9 to 5 for 40 years of our life. That's a commonly held assumption. Challenge that. Another one is that you have to get married. If you don't think marriage works for you, and it doesn't work for a lot of people, and there's some serious consequences to marriage if it doesn't work out, we'll challenge that assumption. You know, challenge all kinds of assumptions about relationships or ways of making money, you know, everywhere. And once you do that and you start to question things and find out that life doesn't have to be the way we're told it is, then you've got the exciting possibility of creating something yourself or creating something different, which is then the longer part of the journey.
No, that was really good advice. And I think the best advice is always really simple. That makes a lot of sense because, yeah, a lot of people do that, don't they, Joe? They just believe what they've been taught and what people have told them. And even to have the conversation we've just had, it's very comfortable for me, and I'm sure the same for you because you're open to it. You've been teaching for years, but some people, they can't even go to this place, which I respect and I appreciate. And that's one of the reasons I guess they get stuck in that way of thinking. They can't get out of their own beliefs. As you said, they've never considered to challenge them. So it sounds like it's getting the mind right, from what you've been saying, challenging your assumptions and then taking the action. Is that how it works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just you've got to do that. You've got to free your. So we talked about the Matrix, didn't we? And the Matrix, Neo was actually plugged into the computer system, and it was feeding him a false, you know, a computer program, which is actually a false reality. Now we're not plugged into a Matrix, but we do get fed a false reality by the system, by our parents, by our teachers, by the media, by bosses, colleagues, religious leaders. All of these people are telling us this is the way the world is, this is the way the world works. And because we're young, we're children and we're growing up and these are authority figures, we do tend to naturally just believe them. But when you get to being an adult, I think a big part of being an adult, which a lot of people don't do, is saying, actually, was everything I was told true? Or is there another way? Is some of it actually not accurate? So that's all I'm urging people to do.
It's a powerful message. It's kind of a timeless message, and although it's very exciting for yourself and me, and I'm sure many people that you help, and a lot of people in this, I'm not going to put a name on it, but I suppose self-help, self-development world. But I suppose for some people that they're petrified to think in the way that you're encouraging them to think and look at their life, because that means obviously looking at themselves, and maybe they're not enjoying being in the Matrix or, you know, following the life that most people follow, because that's what everyone does. They're very scared to let go of that. But at the same time, you've probably heard it many times, they're not happy in their life. They complain a lot of the time of their life is spent complaining in their social conversations. So it does take a lot of courage. Would you agree on that? Do you think it takes a lot of courage to do what you've done, or to step out of any, normal way of thinking, the way that most people go, the conventional way, the way that society encourages, to go your own way, whether it's writing books or not getting married?
Now that you say it and explain it that way, yes, it does. I mean, for me, I don't think it did as much, because I think I was just born that way. I was questioning things from my late teenage years and not agreeing and thinking there's something, and again, another line from the Matrix, there's something wrong with reality. I think that's what Morpheus says. And I definitely felt there was something wrong with the world, reality. So for me, I can't help it, basically. But for somebody who that doesn't come so naturally to, then yeah, you're right. What you're saying just made a lot of sense. You'd be thinking, shit, I can't really step outside the confines of working this regular job. What are my parents going to think? What are my friends going to say? I wouldn't dare say to my girlfriend, actually, I don't really believe in marriage, because what's then going to happen to the relationship? So I can see exactly what you're saying, that, yeah, for a lot of people, I guess it is quite scary to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's just different ways of thinking. But I was thinking, what's your thoughts, Joe? As good as teachers are, I think teachers are so good and mentors. Sometimes they're a bit underappreciated for the work that they do and how they generally change lives. But I always think if someone hasn't got the passion, they don't have that drive, and they don't really want to do it, it's very difficult to get someone to break out of a negative pattern and change. Even a good teacher, a great teacher, could only do so much. The responsibility lies with the individual at least wanting to change. And I found that of myself. I don't get anything done if the desire is not there. I will make excuses despite what I know. I'll probably in some kind of way say, it's not my fault, but if I've got the passion and I really want to do it, like this podcast show, I will do it, because the passion will just make me do it. It will override the fear, the voices, the thoughts, the sleepless nights. What's your take on that? Because
yeah, I agree completely. It's why I can never really get egotistical about my hypnotherapy results or my coaching results with clients, and you help them achieve some amazing things. But over the years, I've come to realize actually it mainly depends on them. And as much as I want to say, yeah, I'm a great hypnotherapist or I'm a great coach, I think the greatest coach in the world can't do anything with somebody who is just not prepared or willing to change. It's not going to happen. It lies in them, really. You're just the kind of the catalyst, the one that gets it going, or the guide, I guess. So yeah, I agree entirely. I never get big-headed about my hypnotherapy and coaching results, because I know really at the end of the day it depends more on the client, because I've done some sessions where I thought, wow, that was amazing, I was so good then, I just said all the right things. Come back a week later, oh, nothing's changed. And I just think and then I've done some sessions where I think, oh, it was crap, that was just terrible, they must have walked away thinking that was a waste of money. They come back a week later, oh, it's amazing, yeah, I haven't smoked any cigarettes or whatever it might be, and just sort of laugh to myself. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
it's nice, isn't it, when you get clients that are good people and they're so open and they're so passionate about it. It makes your life and job a lot easier, and you find that when you've got a connection with them and there's just that kind of relationship, there's a good energy already. It's half of the work done, because they want to listen to what you're going to say. They're not going to be too egotistical and controlling, and they're up for it. They're going to take action and do the things you say in the session, and then you both have that connection. They say a lot in psychology. I believe it's kind of obvious that most of these teacher-student relationships, that they work because of a relationship. But then I suppose you could argue, if you didn't have maybe you don't have to have a great intimate relationship with every client, but you could still get them results you know, if they followed your teaching and it helped them in that particular area. So anyway, that's my thoughts. What's some of your experiences with clients? And I really appreciate how honest and open you've been, like good experiences, challenging, or someone you've worked with that has done really well and you've just really liked and you've got on well with them.
God, there've been a lot. So
you don't have to say all of them. Yeah, let me be a long podcast.
Yeah. Let's start with, and obviously I've got to keep very confidential here, so I can only talk loosely around the subject.
Sure. No names,
let's start with
no addresses.
what appears to be a case that doesn't work, and that's somebody with a lot of anxiety that I've seen for years, and nothing seems to be really, getting better. And at the start, that would frustrate me because I think I just can't get through to this person. Nothing seems to be working at all. But then it suddenly hit me that, maybe just a few weeks ago, it's not necessarily what I'm doing to help them. It's without you in their life, because they really value the sessions, even though to my mind, they're not getting that much better. They still value the sessions. And I think, actually, maybe I never considered the fact that maybe I'm stopping them going even further into the abyss. So maybe they're not getting better to where I want them to get, but just us doing the sessions is that thing keeping them here rather than going down even lower. So that's something that's what I on the surface would appear to be a very difficult client, but you never know. And then good clients, I can think of one I saw earlier in this year for sleep. He was really struggling with getting to sleep. No, not getting to sleep. I think it was waking up in the night, not being able to get back to sleep. We identified while we were doing the session that he was very controlling. He really felt the need to control not just his sleep, but every aspect of his life. When it came to, I think he gave an examples of he was constantly checking his investments, to make sure that they weren't losing money. And I can't remember some of the examples, labeling things in the house. I can't remember off the top, but he felt this need to try and micromanage and control every single area of his life. So we identified that when you release that need to control, which was obviously carrying over to his sleep, I think he had tons of sleep rituals and schedules and routines. And we just kind of broke them down and said, look, you can't control everything. You just can't do it. We as individuals are just one person. We can't control every tiny element of our life. There's some degree of letting go and just having faith, believing that things are going to work out okay. And we did that, and he got that message into his subconscious, and he was sleeping a lot better.
That's great. How long have you been teaching for, Joe?
So yeah, the hypnotherapy since 2005, coaching online since, I guess, a couple of years ago. And that's mainly people who've read my book and then want to do a coaching session. That's based more around kind of leaving your job and finding something you're more passionate about, that rather than the therapeutic context of the hypnotherapy I do.
So now I'm going to just jump different topics. I just say whatever comes to me, what I feel passionate about. Sure. So I'll ask you, what's your creative process, if you have one, for writing books and making content? Do you follow your intuition? Does the passion come? Do you get inspired? I'm really fascinated with understanding teachers, writers, their creative process and what motivates them and inspires them. And is there certain little, not rituals, but maybe habits that lead up to you writing a book or putting out a video? Or
yeah, it all comes, the start of it is all inspiration, without a doubt. The idea will just pop into my head, and I usually have to write it down with pen and paper, just the skeleton idea. And this may be for a video, or it may be for a book or a blog post, and that it's just the inspiration. Almost wouldn't say it comes out of nowhere, because I've probably been thinking about the subject and my mind is jumping from one thing to another, and then I have, oh, that would be a really good idea. So that's all inspiration. In terms of creating it, then it's more hard work. Then it's the writing, usually in hour-long slots. I have a minimum of, I have to write 350 words every hour. That's absolute minimum I have to do. So that's my challenge. And I find by having that challenge, it keeps me a bit focused. And then just trying to let it flow as much as possible when I'm doing it, when I'm writing or when I'm recording a video or speaking. It's about practicing and practicing with the speaking, but then when you're doing it, you've got to get into flow, and you've got to feel, not think. If you were to start trying to think your way through, even now as I'm talking to you, I've got to just let it flow out of my mind rather than think about every word I'm saying, because that would break my train of thought. So it will break the flow. So I just try to feel, basically.
Yeah, a lot of people who follow my stuff and watch this interview, not all of them, but a lot of them will be quite shy, introverted men and women. I come from a background, you probably know my story of being quite introverted and situational shyness and anxiety. So have you got any advice for your teachings, even through the tennis coaching you've done, and you played tennis, and the hypnotherapy and the writing books? Could you, I'm putting you on the spot, give some advice for someone who's struggling with real bad anxiety and shyness, who wants to do more? They find it very difficult to speak to people, you know, in any social situation.
Yeah. I wish I could give some like secret tip to doing it.
Don't we all?
But I don't think there is in that situation. I think it is coming out of your comfort zone. Because the thing is, what people don't understand, maybe who stay in their comfort zone, is when you come out, what happens is you're forced to adapt. And when you're forced to adapt, that's when you develop new skills. You can't get the new skills unless you come out of the comfort zone and put yourself in a situation where you don't currently have what it takes to deal with that situation. So that I'm just trying to give people a deeper understanding of why it is so important that you push yourself out of your comfort zone and do those things that make you feel afraid.
That's excellent. Isn't it quite extraordinary, Joe? I've experienced many times what you just taught and articulated, that when you come outside your comfort zone, the adaptation that you make to that situation is an adaptation and a skill or a part of you that comes out you never knew that you had. You never would have felt that and experienced that hadn't you come outside your comfort zone. But a lot of people, their protective thinking or their fear, they want to get that extra strength whilst being comfortable. And as you said, I don't think that's very close to impossible, which is why a lot of people will read great books and get inspiration, but then they get stuck. They don't use the information from the book and the inspiration and go and take action. But it's kind of weird that they didn't teach us this stuff at school. Certainly the school that I went to, they never sort of said, you've got to come outside your comfort zone, and when you leave school, you know, life's going to force you. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. And if you don't get uncomfortable, you're going to be depressed. You're going to not be a very confident person because you're going to be always stuck in your house or in a comfort zone. So this is kind of a predicament that I could talk about this for hours. I'm fascinated with. Could you elaborate more on that? That was really interesting. I think people will really they'll love this.
I think as you're saying that, another thing came to my head, that don't expect the fear, even though all this good stuff is happening outside your comfort zone, you're adapting, you're learning new skills, the fear is still going to be there.
Absolutely.
It's still going to feel pretty horrendous, and it's going to try to tell you, because your subconscious is always trying to protect you. That's the number one thing your subconscious is doing. Even though it may be screwing you up in a lot of ways and screwing your life up in many ways, ultimately it's trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you away from what it perceives as a threat. So you go up to, you approach that woman and you make an idiot out of yourself. Well, that connects with our instinctive programming not to make ourselves look stupid, because if we make ourselves look stupid or make ourselves a point of ridicule, we might lose favor with our group, our tribe, essentially. I'm talking, what is it, primordial thinking or tribal thinking from tens of thousands of years ago.
I'm following.
So our subconscious is trying to protect us from that. That's a really bad outcome to our subconscious, because it's trying to help us. But what it doesn't realize is actually in today's life, today's society, that's actually holding us back. because it's keeping us from ridicule, but it's also keeping us from growing. So even though your subconscious is trying to protect you and therefore pumping out all these feelings of fear, you shouldn't listen to that fear. It's not in any way going to help you. It's actually holding you back. That's the point I really wanted to make.
That's just really on point. Do you think tennis can help people to get better at being comfortable, being uncomfortable? Playing sports can be good for the mind, and it's still, I suppose, when you're playing tennis, you're still out in public, aren't you? There's interaction, there's people watching you usually, so it's outside the house, it's outside the comfort zone.
Yeah, I think so. I think just competition, and
one-on-one
yeah, I still do one-on-one competition, especially. So tennis. I know you're a big boxing fan. I am as well. Not that I've ever actually like competed at boxing. I've competed at tennis, but I'm a big fan. I follow boxing a lot. But it's the one-on-one team as well to a lesser degree. But one-on-one competition, you put your ego on the line. Basically, you're going up against your opponent, and it's let's see who's better. Can you beat me? And if you've beaten me, some people perceive that as then, I've had my ego crushed. I've been embarrassed. I've been humiliated. And it's about learning that, no, not really. It's just, it's just a match, or it's just in a boxing ring, it's a fight, whatever it is, it's a sport. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're weak. But when people can be weak is if they're afraid of competition. If they don't want to step up and face that challenge, face the possibility of losing, or face the possibility in tennis of being thrashed, losing 6-1, 6-love and being humiliated. Well, fine, you've just got to accept that. Who is it? Felix Dennis, who's dead now, wrote a book called How to Get Rich. He was the owner of Maxim. Have you heard of Maxim? I don't know if they make it anymore. But Maxim magazine, he had a load of magazines. He had a publishing empire. He was worth about 500 million. He's dead now. He wrote a brilliant book called How to Get Rich. He says the number one thing is don't be afraid to fail in public. And that relates to competition. Don't be afraid of competition. So what if you lose? Sometimes you're going to win and it's going to feel great. Sometimes you're going to lose and you just have to accept that. But if you shy away from the competition, if you don't even compete and you don't even get in the game, then your life is just going to stand still.
I mean, that was brilliant what you said. I'm so glad that you gave that advice, because I was banging my head against the wall. The amount of people in the years I've been around that they almost don't want to accept that. They think they're going to create success and not fail. And the real truth is everyone fails at some point. Even obviously Floyd Mayweather is undefeated in boxing, but he's had failures in his life. He's had setbacks. So it's great advice what you said. It's even hearing that gives me confidence. Because it's better to do a tennis match and fail than not to do it because you're scared of failing. Because as you said, you don't grow and you actually worsen spiritually and getting passionate as a person, because you're not.
And look at even then, look at what Floyd had to do to remain undefeated. Wait 6 years to fight Pacquiao instead of fighting him in 2009, 2010 when he might have lost. Who knows? He might have lost. There's PED stuff around Floyd as well. He failed his IV when he fought Pacquiao, and he makes people go down a catch weight, or he makes sure he's got all the judges on his side. It's all pathetic stuff, really. So yeah, he remained undefeated. Nobody beat him, but at the same time, he kind of acted a little bit cowardly in order to do that, compared to, we're going completely off subject here, but
no, that's what we're meant to do. That's perfect.
Compared to somebody like Lomachenko, who just lost. You and me were talking about that. He lost 10 days ago. This guy doesn't do that. He doesn't say, right, if you want to fight me, you've got to have this silly catch weight where you've got to come down. He's a Ukrainian fighting in America. The judges are against him. He's fighting guys bigger than him now. And yeah, he lost. But, it looks like he doesn't fear losing. And he probably won't go down as being remembered as great as Floyd, but still, I think that's an example of somebody who is fearless. Really, he doesn't care about loss. Pacquiao's another one. He's fearless. He doesn't care about losing. He's going to go and fight you, whatever.
No, that's 100%. I mean, I had a first amateur fight when I was 25, and I got beat, and it crushed me at the time. I lost in front of my brother, a massive crowd, and no excuses that I got beaten. The fear overwhelmed me of the crowd. It's my first fight, but looking back, like you said, Joe, I wouldn't change it. I'm glad I lost. I had quite a big ego back then. I needed to go through that to grow and realize that I wasn't cut out to be a professional boxer, but boxing did change my life. So I totally agree, and I try and get people, I'm sure you do with your work, not to force them, but you try and get them to see that truth. There's certain truths in the world which I don't think they're debatable. They're just truths and principles, and you failure equals success. You're not going to grow and toughen up and achieve, or even be able to, help another person to a large degree if you don't go through failures. So another question I've got for you, I'm really fascinated with on that topic, is how do you deal with your adrenaline? Because when I was going out to have my fight, my legs just went. My legs were going. I could hardly speak. The adrenaline was so high, and I kind of I've had that situation in quite a few moments and haven't had it for a while, but it's kind of beautiful and humbling, but it feels humiliating to the ego. You feel so embarrassed and exposed when you can't perform properly.
Yeah.
You're just swallowed up by this abyss. So
yeah,
in tennis, they must get jelly legs. You must get that in competition. How do you deal with that?
It's so weird. It's so weird because you'd think speaking in front of people is pretty much, in front of an audience live in the room, is pretty much one of the most nerve-wracking things you can do.
Yeah.
But I don't really get that nervous with that, and it's so, and that's important to my career. Whereas tennis, which is more, it's just for fun. I get a lot more nervous when I'm playing in tennis matches, and and I know exactly what you mean. With me, it was not necessarily the legs. It's like my arm feels weird. It's like I'm holding the racket, and it just doesn't feel the same. And my mind is I'm being sabotaged by my mind, basically, and it's tough. I think I've got better at dealing with it, but it just comes up sometimes, and you can't control it completely. Trying to think what I do now to try to combat it. I try to get really focused on what it is I want to achieve. In my mind, I'm just thinking, about all the reasons why, reminding myself, look, I'm a good player, I can do this, or focusing on, one thing I need to do. I need to hit more winners. I need to be more aggressive. So I try to get ultra focused in my head if I'm getting those feelings, but it's tough. I think I'm able to reduce them. I don't think I can completely make them disappear, but definitely I feel getting really focused does help them go away a bit.
No, that's excellent. I mean, I didn't doubt what you did for a second, but I can tell you've got a lot of experience. You speak from experience. You've done this stuff, because that's a very similar thing that I do, what you do. When I feel that panic coming, that adrenaline, or I can't feel my body, I tell myself, calm down, like the little boy in me, relax, it's okay. And exactly what you said, I try and focus on one thing. If I'm talking to someone, an interview or whatever situation, I found, like you said, it doesn't fully get rid of it, but it calms it and enables you to get through that situation. And I'm sure you know the term exposure therapy, which I totally believe in. We've kind of been talking about that throughout this interview. I suppose it's a psychological term, it's more professional, but what's your thoughts on that? I've done a few videos. Some people, they don't get it. They just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. And I'm trying to say, this is like one of the best teaching, not because it's me, it's not mine. All teachers are teaching this. The more you expose yourself to fear and adrenaline and anxiety, the better you get at dealing with it. And like you said, it might not fully go completely. I've just lost my train of thought there. I've gone deep.
I think you're asking me what I think of it. And I'm a big believer in it.
Did you know the term
So
exposure therapy? Because I
yeah, I've
know
heard the
the term.
term.
Yeah, yeah.
I have heard the term. I haven't read a huge amount into it, but I mean, just the term itself kind of is self-explanatory.
Exactly.
Um,
Wording.
so yeah, I think, yeah, people don't. Some people, as you say, they don't want to do it, and in a way, as a therapist or a coach, to some degree, you always have to operate within the client's world. You've got to, even if you may disagree with the way they think or the way they see things, you've kind of got to operate within their world to get the rapport. But it does feel like sometimes you just want to pull them out and say, just do it. You will feel scared, but it will make such a big difference. You know, this fear hasn't got the better of you. You can fight it. You know, just fight your fears. You know, just so many times with some clients, I'm just saying that inside. You've got to fight. You can't be, or fight. Maybe fight's the wrong word. You've got to stand up to it. You can't just let yourself be a victim to your fear. You really can't. You have to stand up to it. That's the only thing I would say to those clients who are trying to resist exposure therapy. And also, I guess you can do it to different degrees, can't you? You can start really easy. You can start with, you know, just, let's say somebody had a fear of going outside. You could just start with putting their foot outside the door.
Exactly.
Just take that do that one small thing. Even that's a big result, big step forwards. So yeah. I'm totally with you on that. I think it seems we agree on a lot of things.
I know, exactly. So tell me about the second book that you've written. I really like the title. It's simple, but it makes sense to me, and it's stating the obvious, but I'm sure there's a real deep meaning, like a lot of your teaching. So do the work you love. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, was actually, funnily enough, that's the title the publishers gave it. So I originally called it How to Create an Income Without Working a Boring Job. And they said, no, we need something more catchy. So they went with Do the Work You Love. So is there a deeper, no, I don't really think there is a deeper meaning behind it in that it's a call to action, really. It's a call to action that everybody needs to hear, because you're just, to my mind, you're wasting your life unless you are. No matter how much money you're making, if you're not feeling stimulated, you're not waking up each day looking forward to what the project you're working on, then you're not really living. That's the way I see it. So it's really a call to action to tell people to start doing it, because life is finite. You'd only get so many years. Why? One of the women called Bronnie Ware, Australian woman, wrote a blog post called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And it then later went on to become a book. And it turns out that the first one, she was a nurse, basically. So she saw people in palliative care the last 6 months or whatever, the last bit of their life. And she would ask them, have you got any regrets? And they would tell her, and she put the main 5 regrets into this blog post, which then became a book. Turns out, I think the number 1 regret was that I wasn't true to myself. I wasn't true to who I am and what I wanted to pursue. So, I mean, if there's any bigger warning of what awaits you if you don't do the work you love, then I think that is the thing the last thing you want is to reach 80 or 90 and be getting ready to check out and find that you think, oh, I wish I'd been more honest to my feelings and my ideas and my dreams, basically.
That's really inspiring. What type of writer would you describe yourself as? Maybe you don't see it that way. Because I haven't read your books, I've looked at a lot of your work and I've met you personally, so I learned that way. But there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that are going to want to buy your book, and when we get to the end, you can point people towards getting your books. One of the things I do on this channel, I don't apologize for it. Anyone who comes on has got an opportunity to sell their products, because it's great what you're doing, and we're giving people a lot of free value and So one of the fears I'm trying to get some people over, which is that selling's bad, and I had many years of feeling like that. And I'll get to that question with you. I've gone on a tangent. Yeah. What's your style of writing? Is it therapeutic? Is it storytelling? Are you speaking out loud? Does it represent your teaching? I've read some of your writings.
Okay, so
did that make sense?
my writing,
that made sense to me.
yeah, I think so. What's my style of writing? So, what can they expect if they read one of my books, basically?
Yeah.
So I tell people this is my secret formula for not only writing but speaking as well. And
don't tell anyone, guys. This is the secret.
Yeah, no.
do you think
people can copy it? No, I don't. And if somebody does use it, I don't mind people copying it, just as long as they don't claim it. Say, at least I got this from Joe Barnes. 3 things: you should have structure, you should have stories, and you should have soul. This is if you're doing non-fiction stuff, okay, not novels, and that's a different thing completely. Structure means everything should be planned out well. You should have a flow to your book or your speech, whatever you're doing. You should have thought before what's coming at the start, the middle, the end, etc. So it's got to be well structured. Number 2, stories. Stories just means examples. So, while we've been talking, I've given you a few examples. I talked about Bronnie Ware and her top 5 regrets of the dying. I talked about Felix Dennis and his How to Get Rich book. So you inject a few little stories and examples into your book, into your speech. And then finally, soul is just the part that hits them, here in the heart. You want to get some kind of inspirational or moving message into your book that is going to hit people on a deeper level. So the whole book can't have that soul element, because it's just too powerful. You want to make about 10% of its soul. And then the 4th S, which is like the icing on the cake, if you can do it, is smiles. And smiles just means injecting a bit of humor into whatever you're doing. So I feel like I got the first 3 mastered. I still don't feel like I'm too much of a funny guy either when I'm doing a presentation or in the books. That hopefully that'll come in years to come. I can inject a few more smiles into what I do, but I definitely feel anyone who reads any of my books is going to get structure, stories, and soul, and they will come away feeling a little bit different than they did when they started reading it.
Well, that was really great. There was loads of different stuff there people can take away. We're coming towards the end, and I can go in different directions. So many positive things. How have you dealt with the last 7 months? Obviously, it's been challenging for everyone. For some people more than others, obviously. How has it been for you, Joe, dealing with the restrictions?
I think I probably had it a bit easier than most, actually, where I live. Well, I guess it was my choice to live here, but I didn't choose to live here thinking that there'd be a pandemic in a few years' time. I'm in a development of flats, and we've got 21 acres of woodland all around us. I've got 2 tennis courts, although the bastard chairman closed them down during the pandemic, which was really annoying. Anyway, what I'm saying is I've got lots of ground to walk around in, which is nice, in nature. So that's not too bad. Had a tennis client, a family who still wanted to keep going with lessons because they had a court at their house. So even though I think it probably breached lockdown rules, they were happy. I'm not scared of COVID personally, doesn't scare me. So I went and did that. And then it just actually gave me a chance to write my 3rd book. So it was actually quite good. It slowed everything down. Life slowed down for once, which was just such a relief. Yeah. Life slowed down, and I just got to do things which I'd been putting off for so long. So I finished writing my 3rd book, and then by the time I'd done that, the lockdown started to lift, and tennis was one of the first things that people could do. So I started doing my tennis coaching again. So I have sympathy for people who are in much more difficult situations than me, maybe, living with a family in a unit in a small flat and you can't get out, and there's not, you know, you're in a city and there's not nice natural places you can go and be in. And yeah, so that's pretty tough. And unfortunately, I'm not in that situation, but I've got sympathy for anyone who was. So I'm just hoping we don't go into another lockdown. I think we've done that. Obviously, policymakers can be more intelligent about the best way to contain the virus, but I don't think it's really helping in some way to do what we have, or the consequences of doing it, you know, businesses closing, people's lives being ruined.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to think about that as well, not just people are getting a virus and dying. You've got to think about all the people who are having their lives ruined, having their mental health suffering. It's a real, I wouldn't, that's why I don't, as much as I don't like the Conservatives and I don't like Boris Johnson, I wouldn't criticize him for how he's handled this, because what a difficult job to do, really.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's a challenging one, but yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't agree on, but I'll save that for another video. As we're coming to the end, because I want to. So tell me about the YouTube channel, because I'm always impressed when someone's got the courage to make a video, and especially the thought-provoking, challenging videos you do. I thought my stuff was brave, but things you talk about, really brave. You're a lot of people I see on your channel really agree with what you say, but there's always going to be another part of society that's going to be offended, or they're going to be very critical. So I'd like to know about, if you could summarize your journey of YouTube and what you're going to be doing. Are you still doing the videos? Because I saw on your channel you've got some really high viewed popular videos. Like my channel, you've got some videos with lesser views, but they're all good videos. They're all interesting. They're all relevant. It seems like you've been on a journey. You've been more active on YouTube at some time than others, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just nosy. I want to know about your YouTube journey.
Yeah, you're totally right, Johnny. I go through like spells, because it's not my main thing. As much as I enjoy it, I really enjoy making videos, probably more than I do writing books, if I'm perfectly honest. But it's just so difficult to know what people are going to respond to. I've made some videos on that channel which I think are really good, and then they end up getting like 60 or 70 views, and I just think, what's the point? What's the point of doing that? Fortunately, I have some videos which I think are really good and do end up getting, you know, a few thousand views, which is really rewarding. And then I have some like off the cuff little videos which I think are a bit, you know, crap, and there's not much to them, and then they turn out popular. Like I started doing reaction videos. My reaction to, which has really been popular, and popular for my channel, which I just don't, well, I do understand and I don't understand, is me reacting to that Leaving Neverland documentary on Michael Jackson.
I watched it last night, your video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then looking at the other side of it, there's this documentary called Square One, which hasn't been publicized at all. Surprise, surprise, because it tells a different narrative.
I know.
That actually, perhaps he's not a paedophile. And look, here's a load of evidence to show you why. But of course, mainstream media doesn't want anybody to think that, because it sells more papers or it sells more news time if we portray Michael Jackson as a paedophile. So I reacted to both of those, and they were really popular videos in terms of my channel. So it's for me, it's hard to know what's going to work, and that's probably why I don't do it as much as I can do it as I do. What I've got coming up is the 10 questions every entrepreneur and dreamer needs answered. So basically, if you're watching this and you're thinking, should I follow my dreams, or shall I go with this so-called crazy business idea I've got, you probably have some questions in your mind, and I'm going to address all of these in this video. Make it it's not just going to be me in front of a camera. I'm going to take you through different situations I'm in my day-to-day life. I'll take you onto the tennis court, into the hypnotherapy room, to the gym, etc. So different little scenes answering these 10 questions. I've got that one coming. I'm excited about that. I feel like this could be a good breakthrough video, but I've had that feeling before. So who knows what will happen.
Yeah. I generally mean it. I think you're a really interesting guy. Your stuff, I think you definitely should continue with the YouTube stuff. Obviously, I'm not being pushy because I think your YouTube stuff's great. And I found it a little bit later on. You know what it's like. You know someone and it takes a while sometimes to look at their stuff because life is busy. But even talking to you today, it's amazing. You've got so many good teachings and ideas. You're unique. You're kind of different to anyone that I've spoken to, even though a lot of my friends are all unique. But you should keep with the videos. They're really good. Probably get you back on this podcast show and we can maybe just talk about YouTube because I love interviewing people. I love YouTube. So last question.
Yeah, me too. I like.
Yeah, because I'm trying to keep these to an hour, but this has been really good. So before we end, you've got this. You've got a popular London meetup called Success Club, and I know you update the progress on your YouTube channel, and I know. So I love social meetups. I encourage my followers who've got social anxiety. Then they don't have to come to my free fitness event. Get to an event, go on Meetup, go to your Meetup. It will really help their confidence with people. So what's happening with your Success Club?
Yeah, I used to love running it in person. That's probably one of the things of the lockdown which I really have missed and really have been disappointing, is that we can't meet in person anymore, and that was a real shame. But it's worked out quite well online, and I run them. Probably I was doing two a month during the real lockdown.
Yeah.
Now I'm down to about one a month or so.
Yeah.
But Thursdays, 7 o'clock, we pick a subject which I give a small presentation on, because sometimes I feel like, when it's online presentation, I want to keep people's attention. I don't want to bore them too much. So we do a small 2 10-minute sections. In between that, we have breakout rooms where everybody gets a chance to meet like-minded people, talk. I set discussion points. So you can talk about whatever you want, but if you want something to talk about, I'll give you something relevant from the presentation I'm doing. We also have the success report. So this is basically at the start. Anyone can say any significant success they've had in the previous, between this meeting and the last one. So they gained an extra 5 clients, or they managed to lose a stone on their new diet, or whatever it is. So we do the success report. Then at the end, we do the accountability goal setting, which is what I want to get done for the next time. And then we finish it all up with some group hypnosis. So I do some hypnosis over the airwaves to put people in a relaxed state of mind for the end of it and program their subconscious. So that's basically that's in a nutshell what we do with those.
No, that's been brilliant. I've loved talking to you today, Joe. And if people want to contact you, whatever you follow you, I'm going to leave links under my video of all your books, your products. But is there a particular place you want to send people if they want to contact you?
Yeah, if they want to contact me, I would say just go to Escape the System, www.escapethesystemnow.com. Get yourself your free 30 days to escape the system course. That's one thing you can do if you want a bit of my material. There's a contact page there. Get in touch with me there, or just buy the books. If you want to read what I feel is my best work, then buy the books. They're not expensive. You pick them up for $4 or £3 on Kindle, or £6. We're not talking a lot of money. Go to Amazon, and that's I'd say the best way to get in touch, or if you would like what I've said, if you want to learn more, that's the best way, I think.
Joe, thanks for coming. That was brilliant. I'll leave all the links below. I think we're having an earthquake. There's like hailstones coming through. Perfect timing. But I'm going to get you on the podcast show again, because this was so good. There was more information, but it was brilliant. So much knowledge. And I'm sure people will check out and buy your books. So thanks for coming on, Joe. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Johnny. Lots of fun.
Become fearless.
Cheers.